Ready? Okay. Good evening and welcome to this evening's meeting of the Woodbury County Zoning Commission. Today's date is August 23rd, 2021, and it's 6 p.m. Tonight's meeting will be audio taped and minutes will be prepared. In respect to all parties, we ask those present to turn off cell phones or set to vibrate. Those in attendance are asked to legibly complete the attendance sheet upon the front table. I would like to take a moment to review the procedures that the commission will follow tonight. First, the commission will handle the normal housekeeping agenda items. Then for each application on the agenda, I will open the public hearing on the item. The planning and zoning staff will then present the staff report, including a staff recommendation. Any letters and other communications received from the public prior to the hearing will be entered into the record. The applicant will then have the opportunity to present his or her case and respond to staff report. Next, we will have comments from the public. If you would like to speak either in support of or against the application, you must come to the microphone. Please first state your name and address for the record. All interested parties shall be heard, but repetitious comments should be avoided. Repetitious or irrelevant comments may be ruled out of order by the chair. I ask that you remain respectful and courteous with your comments at all times. After all public comments have been heard, the staff and applicant may make a closing statement. The hearing shall then be closed by motion and vote. Thereafter, no further comments from the staff, public, or applicant may be heard unless asked for by the commission. The commission shall then deliberate the case. You may ask questions of the applicant, the staff, or any party offering testimony. However, such questions do not reopen the hearing for additional comments from the public unless so requested or approved by the commission. The commission will then formulate and vote on a motion. The motion will typically either grant or deny the requested application. Any commission member who has an ex parte communication to place in the recording of this meeting should do so prior to the beginning of the deliberation of the respective agenda items. And having said that, we'll make a note that we have all commissioners here tonight, all present and accounted for. So let's see, the next item on the agenda is public comment on matters not on the agenda. Do we have anybody either here or on the phone that want to comment on anything other than what's on the agenda? Seeing or hearing none, we're going to move on to item number 4, which is the approval of the minutes for July 26, 2021. Do we have any additions or corrections that we need to make on those?
Page 2, bottom of the public hearing, Davis states, I don't know if it's technically a correction, but just to clarify that it was the old floodplain didn't accurately reflect.
Yeah.
That was what I was getting at that point.
Is there a particular sentence that needs to be corrected or?
Well, it'd be the second to last line, the current floodplain map at that location does not accurately reflect that area. That was what we were talking about, the Walnut View area.
Right.
And it was done before the
New FEMA maps that came out.
so that didn't accurately reflect that property, old map at that time. That's,
Because they're still draft maps.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
that's all I.
A little more clarification.
It's probably right, but I like to say just.
Anybody else have any corrections or additions, deletions? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
With that change, I will motion to accept the minutes.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, all opposed, same sign. The motion carries for the approval of the minutes, July 22nd, 2021. Next item on the agenda is items of business. The first one is a public hearing, Sheever Edition minor subdivision proposal. James, you want to read that information into the record for us, please?
Yes, Nathan A. Sheever has filed an application for a 1-lot minor subdivision on the property identified as parcel number 884305200002 as referenced as well in the report to split the homestead from the farm ground. This proposal has been properly noticed in the Sioux City Journal's legal section on August 13, 2021. The neighbors within 1,000 feet have been duly notified via August 9, 2021 letter about tonight's meeting, August 23, 2021, before the Zoning Commission. No written comments have been received as of today or the 19th as indicated with the report. The appropriate stakeholders, including government agencies, utilities, and organizations, have been notified and have been requested for comment. Significant comments from stakeholders included those from Siouxland District Health referencing possible easement access to the well location options for a new septic system. The Woodbury County engineer found the proposal in compliance with Iowa code closure requirements, found the access to have more than adequate site distance, and recommended an easement agreement for access, which has already been prepared and included with this application. Extraterritorial review was not required as this property location exceeds 2 miles from an incorporated area. This property is not located in the floodplain. Based on the information received and the requirements set forth in both the zoning and subdivision ordinances, this proposal meets the appropriate criteria for approval. It is the recommendation of staff to approve this proposal. What I have.
Do we have anyone here that represents the Sheever Division minor subdivision? Okay. Do you have any comments that you want to make at this time? Any clarifications? Come on up. Yep. Let us know who you are and
My name is Martha Boyle from McGuire Auction Company. We are representing Mr. Sheever on the possible sale of the acreage property so that he would be retaining the farmland behind it. And I did want to note that I spoke with Doug Castro, who's an attorney. We will definitely give the well easement. That seems to be the only thing that's sort of hanging out there. And so I have confirmation from Mr. Sheever that we will give the wells. That's it.
thank you. Commissioners, do you have any comments or questions for the applicant, for the representative? I'm not hearing anything. We have criteria that we usually go through. CDs, staff criteria and zoning commission review criteria. Do we need to go through any of those? Was everyone satisfied with that information? None of those. Nice quiet crowd tonight. If we have no discussion or no questions or comments, are we ready to go into closed session? Yes, can I have a motion? to go into closed session?
Motion to close the public hearing.
Yes, close public hearing, please.
And I moved.
Close the public hearing. Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Now do we have any comments or questions that we want to entertain at this point? If I hear none,
Just the 2 point, or the, well, county shares recommendation, and the 2 from Siouxland District Health.
Dee Smith
I guess there's 3 points.
for the well and for the
Septic.
septic. Okay. Okay. I would want to make sure that the supervisors are there. Okay. Are you ready to make the motion?
I move to approve it.
Okay. I'll motion to approve it based on those 3 criteria, I'm assuming. Okay. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Subdivision has been approved, plat dogs and goes to the supervisor. Thank you for coming to me. Yes, you can. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Very welcome. Okay, the next item on the agenda is, trying where this begins here. A public hearing for the Cozy Creek Edition minor subdivision proposal. Dan, will you use the information into the record for that as well?
Yes, Brett and Jody Peterson have filed an application for a 2-lot minor subdivision on the property identified as parcel number 8845-141-00006. As referenced in the report, the purpose of is to split the parcel into 2 lots, and they're planning on building a house on lot 2. This proposal has been properly noticed in the Sioux City Journal's legal section on August 13th, 2021. The neighbors within 1,000 feet have been duly notified via an August 9th, 2021 letter. about the August 23rd, 2021 zoning commission public meeting tonight. No written comments have been received as of today. Appropriate stakeholders, including government agencies, utilities, and organizations have been notified and requested to comment. Significant comments have included those from the Woodbury County Soil and Water Conservation District, who stated that the developers are encouraged to use erosion control best practices for any construction activity. Siouxland District Health also commented about access to the well. The land surveyor, Scott Gernard, who is here tonight, has stated on August 13th to me that the well and septic assets are contained on lot 1. The Woodbury County engineer found the proposal in compliance with Iowa code closure requirements and found access to both lots as acceptable for site distance. Extraterritorial review was not required, as this property exceeds 2 miles from an incorporated area. This property is not located in the floodplain. Based on the information received and the requirements set forth in the zoning and subdivision ordinances, this proposal meets the appropriate criteria for approval. It is the recommendation of staff to approve this proposal.
Oh, I think I heard that we have a representative for this application. Scott, is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Scott Gernhardt, True Engineering and Land Surveying. They're planning on selling lot 1 and building a new home on lot 2. Any other questions?
So there will be a separate well and septic
Yes.
for number 2.
Any questions or comments for Scott from the commissioners? Do you have anyone from the public that wants to comment on this? Anyone on the phone that's public? I'm not hearing any comments. Are you ready to go into closed session on this one? Or do we have discussion? Same kind of things are going on here. We have review criteria that we have to evaluate. I'm assuming no one has any questions on them.
So do you want to,
Okay, we have
do you want to close first?
Yes, please.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Do we have a second?
I can second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we are now in closed session. So now, as I was saying, we have criteria that we have to evaluate. And does anybody have any questions or comments on the criteria? Do we need to go through any of them? Any objections to the criteria? Or any other information that we have? Hearing none. We'd entertain a motion for the Cochise Creek addition.
So again, we want to mention to the supervisors that there are comments from the soil and water conservation group for regarding the erosion control, and also from the district health department. And with that being said, I'll make a motion that we approve this.
Second.
We have a motion and we have a second. Okay. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Okay, so the pre-condition has been approved by us and we'll go on to the Board of Supervisors. So thank you very much for being here tonight. The next item on the agenda, public hearing, Steve and Michelle Blyle, am I right? Addition minor subdivision proposal. I should know that. We've gone to that auction building for years and years and years, so I should have that figured out by now. Okay, what should you have figured out? The name, Blyle. Yeah. Will you read into the record our information, please?
Sure. Cruzy Farms Limited Partnership has filed an application for a 1-lot minor subdivision on the property known as parcel number 894410200002. Basically to split the house from the farm ground. This proposal has been properly noticed in the Sioux City Journal's legal section on August 13th, 2021. The neighbors within 1,000 feet have been duly notified via an August 9th, 2021 letter about tonight's meeting, August 23rd, 2021 of the zoning commission. As of today, one phone inquiry from Leah Herbal was received inquiring if this was for a hog confinement. Appropriate stakeholders, including government agencies, utilities, and organizations have been notified and have been requested to comment. The Woodbury County engineer found the proposal in compliance with Iowa code closure requirement and found the proposed driveway ingress egress location acceptable for site distance to serve both the house and the farm ground. Extraterritorial review was not required as this property location exceeds 2 miles from an incorporated area. This property is not located in the floodplain. Based on the information received and the requirements set forth in the zoning and subdivision ordinances, this proposal meets the appropriate criteria for approval. It is the recommendation of staff to approve this proposal.
Okay. Last people in the room, so I'm assuming you're part of this application. Are you the owners?
No, servers.
Okay. Do we have anyone that wants to comment on this application? On the phone?
Yes.
Okay, can you state your name
My
for
name
us?
is, yes, my name is Gene Collins. I'm the attorney for the applicant. And just briefly stated, this is a situation where the Creasy Farms have owned this property for decades. Steve and Michelle Weil have farmed their farms for decades and continue to be tenants. This is just the last step of a long-standing agreement between landlord and tenant to sell the tenant the acreage.
Okay. Thank you. Do we have anyone else that wants to comment on this application at this time? Something? No? Okay. Supervisors, are you ready to go into closed session? On this one, need a motion?
I'll take a move to close and go to closed session.
Okay. We have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, we have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
Okay, we have criteria to review. Does anyone have any questions or comments on this application? They want to, if the criteria, everyone agree with it?
Just a comment, the lady that called in, was there a specific reason she stated that she was concerned that was happening, or?
Basically, it's a common call that we get, and basically the concern was, is this being split for the purposes of a hog confinement? And typically when hog confinements, first off, when we deal with subdivisions, we right away tell them it can be a separate issue. Sometimes if you're subdividing, you might do it for that, you might not. And so it's definitely a separate permitting issue. So basically we explained with the information that we have at the time, a property owner does have a right to go pursue a confinement if they meet the respective DNR requirements. And one thing that I went back and checked on the DNR requirements is, even in reaction to this, is we have the master matrix threshold, and that's based on the number of animal units exceeding 996, basically up to 1,000 animal units, which would trigger where we go through the matrix, which is a level of permitting that this has to go through the board of supervisors to see that they meet the respective separation distances from like schools, waterways, ponds, etc. So that type of thing comes up in the report. However, a lot of the confinements do go right below the 1,000 level. And since the ag laws have changed last year with the building permits and everything now, if you're ag exempt and you want to put up a confinement below the master matrix threshold, you're basically between the 500 animal units and the 1,000 animal units, where you still have to meet DNR level of site distance on the design. However, if you're a smaller scale farmer and you're below 500 animal units, so you're somewhere between 200 and 500, you're not subject to much of that DNR regulation as well. So, and I've talked with DNR too about their level of permitting when it comes to the small scale. And so basically, kind of long story short, you need to hit the 500. So I made that neighbor very well aware that somebody, a smaller scale farmer, would have the ability to put something in there such as 200 and some or 250 or anything below the 500, and just let her know those permitting levels.
But
Did
this
you,
point in time, we don't know any of that at
We've
this case.
Yeah, and we've had inquiries. I've had folks ask us, what are the county permitting requirements even within that area? So I think when, news gets out that there's a letter, there's always a potential when you subdivide for that type of development. So it's always a fair question, a very common one.
Right.
but even without the subdivision, that outbuilding is still go in there. Just because it's subdivided doesn't
Yeah.
allow it to happen any easier than if it wasn't subdivided.
It's basically the subdivision would, if the landowner has their exempt status regardless of the split or not the split, or if they just decided I want to subdivide and own both parcels, and they still have that ability and flexibility as a farmer, that's still feasible. The thing that the subdivision does is it puts the public light on this. We're having a land transaction, a land split, and it brings those questions up, which are fair. But it also, it's different. If there's no subdividing and, somebody could either push it to the matrix level or, fall within those other categories.
Do you answer the calls that way, that it looked like that lady called in, do you express that to her, that even without the subdivision? I mean, I've had people say, well, the subdivision, they can auto, they can do it without subdivision, too.
I try to research everything very uniquely to what they're asking. And so basically she asked the question, so then I go and kind of reach out to respective stakeholders. I even called the attorney too and brought that to his attention as well, that this was brought up about your subdividing procedures. And then I reached out to our contacts with the Spencer DNR, who are phenomenal to work with when it comes to either the master matrix level on down through the other permitting.
I have a question here on page 33. Parcel report, it shows deed holder Guthridge Farms. 33, page 33.
Okay, that should have been Creasy.
And I think this is the property next to it.
Yeah,
That's got the wrong parcel number.
This is
make a
sale.
correction.
Yeah, this is a sale barn, right?
Yeah. Good, thank you.
Yeah.
A mile from the house.
So the only thing that really changes is who's the title holder and parcel number, which has been identified in any previous information.
Yeah, it's O2, basically.
Okay. It doesn't complicate the issue, it just clarifies the consistency.
Yes, and so we go back to page 29 on the area.
Yes.
It matches up.
Yeah.
Perfect. Do you have any other questions or comments concerning this application? I think we're still in closed session, so are we ready to make that?
I think we closed.
Yeah.
We're supposed to set the,
Yeah, we closed.
we closed the public hearing.
Okay, so are we ready to make a motion?
Do it.
Subdivision?
Okay, no conditions, no, any,
It's the location of the correct information.
okay, we've got a motion, we have a second, all in favor say aye,
Right.
all opposed same sign. Okay, motion carries, that goes to the supervisors. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, and the next item we have on the agenda is public comment on matters not on the agenda. Do we have anyone that wants to comment? Maybe just sign up. No, no one? Hearing no one, how about staff update?
Yeah, A few things. We did receive, the chairperson of the Board of Supervisors, Rocky DeWitt, did officially receive the FEMA letter, which we've been aware about for a while, about the revised floodplain maps, the draft proposal. And basically, in this letter, they're formally telling the county that they're publishing into the Federal Register, that they're gonna make the move toward adopting these draft maps in the future. And so the federal government or FEMA is gonna start doing the public noticing, in fact. So they basically told us they're gonna put something in the Sergeant Bluff Advocate, Sioux City Journal, and then the Record. They said on or about August 19th and on or about August 26th. And basically, it's gonna trigger the 90-day kind of period where folks can look at their respective property and be able to challenge. So if you disagree, for example, what's going on, hey, my property is now in the floodplain and it wasn't before, their letter is telling us that they're going to have to look at, you can't just come and tell them, oh, no, I disagree with you. You're going to have substantial evidence, whether it be some sort of survey data or some information that would show that your natural ground is actually indeed higher than the new base flood elevation levels that they come up with that LIDAR. So that threshold level is a bit more difficult to challenge there. Throughout this process, this has been going on quite a while. The DNR and FEMA have kind of worked together using the LIDAR and taken input as well on the general layout. So now it comes down to the extra level of public notice. And we were told, and we haven't heard yet from DNR, but DNR is going to take an active role in the public meetings and the public notices that do come up when we start getting into the larger level of public discussion. But the whole real point of the letter is that when people feel that they disagree with this, they're going to want to send their data over to the county.
Mhm.
And so the county at this time, I know it just got into the supervisor's hands now at this point, so they've got to kind of look at it in terms of kind of what is next. But as the federal and the state kind of take charge on this type of notice, it'll give people the opportunity to look at if they want to possibly challenge that within this time frame. And I noticed the letter, they were even kind of about this date and that type of thing. So they left it a little bit flexible, but they did give us, the criteria that we would, it looks like, again, the challenge or the information would go out to the region 7, basically out of Kansas City, which is our specific area for FEMA. But this kind of segues into, David did want me to mention too, that the supervisors are still kind of looking at the logistics of that floodplain ordinance to kind of, these two kind of in a way work together, because regardless, they're going to mandate that we have that ordinance basically. So we kind of got ahead of the game a little bit on that, but it's kind of coming together as this one here kind of fits. So we want you to be aware that we're going to start hearing more and more as this gets engaged in the next phase. So up through 2022, they have different kind of segments, 90-day periods.
So now they're not starting the public meetings yet at different locations throughout the area then?
I don't have that information yet on what they're going to post, but they're the ones that basically are going to put that into place for us. And we'll do what we can, of course, to assist.
Right.
The Sioux City would be a big part of this too. There's some elements within floodplains, so they would kind of have to look at how we want to look at the urban area versus out in the county, or what we want to do out there.
So if people have questions, then do we still have the same website that we go to?
Yes.
If this is not on Beacon.
That website that we shared, my understanding is it will stay active, but in the letter they had mentioned that they're going to have you a FEMA.gov website where you can access this data as well, but we can send you all a copy of this letter so that you can
I was just on the FEMA website today and I was trying to find information on the new maps and it never really said this is proposed, so I struggled to try and find something.
Yeah, they're very notorious for kind of using the word draft language. So and the website is kind of, the indexing on it is not the greatest, so.
Not user friendly, is that what you're saying?
Well, I would like for them to be, especially when we look for letter or map amendments, you basically look for area, then you provide an entire list and you have to go basically open up each one.
Right, right. And our surveyors know what to do when it comes down to stuff like that too.
Do you know what the accuracy is on your map versus, I know it's gotta be a lot better, but like the old map, there's areas that weren't accurate, that you put in, you know.
Was
Yeah,
it 10 foot?
the 2 foot LiDAR is what they used, and I think that it's definitely taken areas out that were much higher land, and I think one time when we looked, I think there was a net of there being folks pulled out, but then there was some quite a bit in. I think the area down 210th, 220th, kind of the south of Sergeant Bluff area kind of improved a bit. They did adopt the Schneider study that was done several years ago, so they factored in that Hornick area, the Browns Lake area too, so that data will remove quite a few people that were in that floodplain. And so we kind of saw the effect we mentioned earlier in the minutes as well, where there were areas like that one that was put into the floodplain. So we will kind of see it that way. So folks that would be ready to challenge or disagree, it's all about knowing your natural ground and what your natural ground would be relative to that BFE, but using 2 foot LiDAR intervals, I think that they're very confident with this, but at the same time, nothing beats a land surveyor really giving you the direct calculation of a portion of a property, and that's why that infrastructure is in place to challenge it.
Right. Okay, here we go.
Okay, okay, another thing to bring up is the fair efforts and the survey. We kind of talked with the Board of Adjustment a little bit, and you as well last month about the survey that was going on with the general plan and collecting the data. We had a meeting with Simcoe last week, and they kind of gave us some preliminary data where I think they've exceeded 400 or so surveys so far on information that's coming in, and they've done a really nice job of kind of dissecting those different questions on matters of zoning and economic development, areas that people want to see for the future of the county, and they've had it nicely broken down on how many responded out of the urban area, how many out of the rural areas, and kind of it's preliminarily given us a kind of a good idea on the balance of how much regulation is too much, how little, and we kind of saw some fascinating data where it was almost coming out where it was just about right. So,
Good.
but it could change as more surveys come in.
Did you say 400? Did you say
It
400?
exceeded 400, but it may be up to 500. I know that they've been doing a lot of data processing, data crunching. At the fair, many of us work the fair. Simcoe was out there quite a bit, and we tried to recruit as many people as possible to sign those surveys, and we put an incentive out there where you could win a cooler. So we had one of those fancy Yeti coolers that somebody could win, and so we had a drawing as an incentive. Please fill these out, and I think that when we kind of got on the ground and we're talking to the fair goers and we're able to directly tell them, you know, this is the future of your county, this is your future planning where you can have a direct say. And I know at that time when you're out there enjoying the fair and everything, you're not, you know, in the mindset of what my property rights are, but I think everybody kind of did a good job on, you know, turning on that light bulb, or, you know, someday somebody might be coming in here for, you know, conditional use, or, you know, that type of thing. And so being able to convey that, when I was there, I really I felt that people were just genuinely concerned when you were able to tell them what it was all about. So a young gentleman out of Mobile, Cade Pollen, won the cooler. And so we delivered him the cooler and he was, we took a picture and put it up there on social media of him receiving it. So another way to, get the word out, to really think about, the future of your county and everything. And the other thing that David wanted me to announce is he's been working on getting the Iowa State Extension Group. They put on this program for zoning, the zoning training, introduction to zoning. And basically, it looks like we have October 6th penciled in as a training session that everybody is encouraged and welcome to go to. It's going to be out at Amplen, is my understanding, and we'll have a dinner. Is it down? Is it the fireside? Yes. So we're going to have it at the fireside. So we're kind of looking at 6 o'clock dinner, 6:30 program, and just really it's good for everybody to kind of go as a refresher, great for new folks as well, because it covers a lot of the, aspects that we experience
You get
here.
a really good diverse crowd in that too, mayors and council members and other zoning people throughout the area, so
Mhm.
it's really good to go to.
So so please circle October 6th on the calendars. And then the other thing that I want to kind of provide some clarification on, Governor Reynolds' proclamation ended in June. Before, we were allowed the ability under her emergency proclamation where we were able to run these meetings over the computer or over the microphone, Microsoft Teams all this time. When that went away, it pushed us back to Iowa code, and Iowa code basically, the interpretation going through the county attorney's office is that we've got to have a quorum here, basically with the commissioners.
In person.
In person. And so, there's some language in there about hardships and, like being ill or not being able to be there for some other reason is probably not enough of a criteria to be able to facilitate a meeting entirely over the Microsoft Teams system. So we're kind of looking at, possible options. I know the supervisors kind of have a set of bylaws that may allow when one of them may be gone to be able to call in for some reason. So we might want to look at that from at this level from the commission and from the board of adjustment, from maybe a bylaw aspect on what could be, something to consider. But other than that, that's all I've got from staff.
Question for you.
Go ahead.
The issue, the DOT, on annexation and the permitting, did they figure that out?
At the borrow site there?
Yeah, off the Marl side where they wanted to, well, we're still part of the county.
Yeah, I know that, I don't have enough personally to comment, other than I know that it's being looked at, basically.
I know there's a lot of people that are asking questions about it. Did they actually go through the annexation process and the rezoning? There was a meeting, I think, on the 10th.
Yeah, my understanding is, I'd have to go back and check, but I think some letter went out and there was maybe a delay, but I think that there's definitely engagement there with the city and with the DOT. I haven't talked to Dakin in quite some time, Dakin Schultz with the DOT, but I know that they're working toward that.
I know they had the date set for the 10th, and then there was another letter that did come out, but because of surveying issues that we were talking about, Tom.
I've been asked, and I don't know what the specific issues are, but
Yeah, I think there was like you were saying, there was a letter that did come out, it did put a delay that did reference survey.
Right, yeah, because we had like different dates when I was talking to other people that were affected, she's well, I didn't get that letter, I didn't get that letter. Wait a minute, something fishy's going on here, that's not right, but yeah. So can you check into that and find out what the surveying issues are, because everybody is asking?
Yeah, from the county perspective, I'm just as good as where the letter is, but we'll look into it.
Yeah, I'd appreciate that.
What's being built out there?
they're looking at annexing that area and eventually to have the transit and Simcoe and DOT out there.
All of these offices and maintenance facilities are gonna go on that spot. And then Simcoe and their buses, not Simcoe's buses, but the buses, they're gonna have a bus barn out there. And then the interchanges aren't gonna all have lights, the loops are gonna change. So there's gonna be stop and go lights in there.
Once that gets annexed into the city, then they don't have to meet the requirements that are set currently correctly, totally, it doesn't meet the standards now. But they'll be able to put stop lights in the city, so that'll all change.
Let's take D12.
I don't even know how.
It's amazing how, you know, jurisdictional will have that impact.
Yeah, a lot of changes in there. Yeah, that was one of my biggest concerns, is like, look at all the traffic that's coming in and off of Highway 20, and you've got all the interchanges going on. It's like, who thought this is gonna kill somebody?
And that's been a long range thing. My understanding, that's been going on a lot of years.
They've kind of been moving in that direction.
Just for clarification, that it's looking like different language, but the Iowa code closure requirements, that's just the site distance for driveways and stuff, or is that different? Yes, I just didn't remember seeing that specific language, that's one.
Yeah, the county engineer is charged with looking at the plat very specifically to make sure that the surveyor meets all the calls and it actually closes in surveyor language. And so they will follow that to see that it's a suitable parcel. And then when he's done doing, that's actually in the ordinance and in the code, that he basically verifies that it closes. They have this ratio. And the second part is Mark looks at the feasibility of the driveways and the access period to see that it's suitable. So when he's given an easement or given another area, he goes and checks on it. Or a lot of times he'll tell us where something has a potential for a driveway, and some folks are kind of leave the lot and they're not necessarily ready to put the driveway in, but we usually get the thumbs up that particular parcel can suit that.
I knew the access points I'm talking for, I just didn't know what the.
And that's, I guess, I've been asked that before too, as far as the role of the county engineer, but like you said, that's in Iowa code that assigns that duty to, you know,
Yeah.
The engineering expert.
Yep, and they're very quick over there, as they should be in their office, to basically look at, it's kind of like just verifying that the surveyor, and we've had it before where they said, hey, wait a minute, you've got to make this change. And what we do at the staff level is we work to get the final product before you so that the final product can be acceptable to the board of supervisors as well. And you have that, they have it in that form. And so that all sort of run it through that grinder so that it's, you know, correct. We get there. We can never let a plat go through that's not going to. And I'll give you an example. When somebody goes and does a regular split, now if you have a quarter section, you can split one parcel out without going through the subdivision procedure. But there's been times where there's been an error or mistake, and the recorder's office will contact us and let us know, hey, we've got a zoning issue. Sometimes they even call them a zoning violation. And basically what we do is we go back and we'll talk to the surveyor, talk to the attorney, and say, you got to go back and re-record this or correct this. So there's always that. Also, every parcel has to have access as well. That in land, we've had it where you got to go back and get an easement in order, because Iowa code prohibits landlocked parcels. But if you happen to be a farmer who, you know, controls several 40s and your own parcels are landlocked, technically you're not landlocked because you control your outer parcel, but it's usually a good idea for you to have an easement. But by the time you go to sell that, you're going to run into the need to get that easement anyway. So you always run into, by the time you get to sales, you gotta have that easement. So it does catch up regardless of what stage. That's one thing the recorder's office will point out as they work with me. And another thing too, is on splits, the recorder's office by Iowa code has to take a recorded document in there. In other words, you could go in and record a deed or record a survey, even though it's against the zoning ordinance. So basically, somebody can go record, let's just say, for example, one of these subdivisions we did tonight, somebody just goes and records a survey and a deed, they'll record it, but it sits there as a zoning violation. And what happens is they don't process the split. And so somebody may own their land, but you don't see it show up there on Beacon. So you're still paying the taxes. You're responsible for the respective parcel, but in your mind, I own this piece of land, I own it on the deed, but we didn't work the split. And so we go back and we say, hey, you either gotta bring it to the zoning commission and process that through the formal subdivision, or you gotta find a way. And a lot of times they end up being boundary adjustments where somebody splits one and they didn't go through the whole process to merge it in. For example, you sell a piece to your neighbor, you're in the same 40, you create a new parcel by way of deed, and it sits out there as that third parcel. And if you don't do anything with it, it could literally sit there until, somebody takes action on it. And so it either goes to going up with the assessor, making sure they own it at commonality and combine it. And so that's, you either combine your parcel or you come here. Well, it's,
Either way, we're gonna get you.
so those are kind of some of the little things that we do run into at the staff level quite a bit. And so, and that's where it's imperative for people to talk to us. A lot of times a surveyor or somebody will just go record something and then we find it at that back end. And that's the nature of Iowa code. We've talked about this at different zoning meetings with folks across the state because we don't have anything saying you have to come up to the zoning office to talk about that split. So all of a sudden we just get caught blindsided or you just created a violation. But we have a real good recorder's office that finds it and we usually work people toward the parcel combinations.
Great process. Indeed. Okay, we have anything else? No? All right, how about adjourning?
I'll make that motion.
Motion.
Right.
Cory says yes, do it. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you
Thank you,
very,
guys.
very busy evening here.
Thanks, man.